Whether you plan on running, biking, or walking the lakefront trail or elsewhere here in Chicago this spring, experts recommend drinking at least 8 8-ounce glasses of water per day, both to maximize your exercise and to stay safe as the weather eventually gets warmer. For Good Day DePaul, I'm Paul Steeno. In order to survive at DePaul University, students need food, housing, clothing, textbooks, and Wi-Fi. How else would they get their schoolwork done? Or post pictures to Instagram and play video games. This paved over parking lot that I'm standing on right now used to be the site of DePaul Field, where the DePaul football team used to play their home games. At its height, about 10,000 fans used to pack into the stadium to support their football team. It's called sabermetrics, and it's revolutionizing sports. I recently talked to a DePaul alum who's an expert in this emerging field. At the end of January, actor Jussie Smollett staged his own attack here in Chicago's Streeterville neighborhood. Today, the Cook County State's Attorney's Office announced that all charges against the actor have been dropped. Next up for Kiki Layne are roles in Native Son and Captive State, two films set to premiere early on this year. For Good Day DePaul, I'm Paul Steeno. It was nearly 1,400 pages, and it stunned many in the Catholic Church. A grand jury report saying about 300 Catholic priests had abused over 1,000 children across 7 decades in Pennsylvania. The report said church officials systematically covered up the crimes. DePaul University is the largest Catholic university in the United States by total enrollment. Despite everything that's happened, the religion remains tightly woven in the DNA of the university. Father Jeremy Dixon is the pastor at St. Vincent de Paul Church on DePaul's Lincoln Park campus.
I pray that you don't lose hope, you don't lose faith. We hope in Christ, not the bishops. And although the church is a mess right now, we remember it's Christ's church, and he ultimately will lift us up.
About 250 DePaul students attend Sunday night Mass at St. Vincent de Paul.
If you're doubting, I don't blame you. If you're angry, that's entirely understandable. If you're questioning a lot, that's extremely understandable.
Former St. Vincent de Paul pastor Father Christopher Robinson feels church members need to take action.
Don't wait for the bishops, don't wait for the priests, but do the people take control of the situation.
DePaul Religious Studies professor Stanchu Elo also wants change.
I belong to the few voices in the church today that think we need a total overhaul of our system.
But another DePaul Religious Studies professor, Father James Halstead, is skeptical about proposed solutions.
Your word was solutions. My answer to that is this is never going to get resolved because human sexuality never gets resolved.
Others feel the solution lies in stricter penalties for abusing priests. Until that happens, many feel the problem will never be resolved. For Good Day DePaul, I'm Paul Steeno. Intimidation, manipulation, shaming her for her lack of sexual experience, refusing to talk to her, destroying her possessions, physical violence. All allegations Melissa Reedy Russell made against her ex-husband, Chicago Cubs infielder Addison Russell. Although Russell has denied the allegations, Major League Baseball has placed him on administrative leave. Chicago Cubs chairman Tom Rickett supports the move.
Obviously, we take it very, very seriously. Obviously something we're very concerned about.
But this issue isn't unique to Major League Baseball. In a 2011 study, 43% of dating college students reported experiencing violent or abusive dating behaviors. College-age women experience the highest rate of domestic and relationship violence among all age groups. According to DePaul University's latest annual safety report, 25 cases of domestic violence and relationship violence involving DePaul students were reported last year. Hannah Retskin, DePaul's sexual and relationship violence prevention specialist, says relationship violence often goes in cycles.
Usually that cycle, when it first starts, there's usually a lot of gaps in between. So it'll be maybe the first act of violence was verbal abuse, and so maybe calling me a name or something like that. and then it won't be for months until another thing happens, right? So just the incremental way that it happens can make it seem like this is a normal part of a relationship.
DePaul complies with the Violence Against Women Reauthorization Act, signed into law in 2013 by President Barack Obama. It requires universities to provide data on incidences of domestic violence, relationship violence, and stalking. Universities must also identify programs and resources that they provide to victims. Curbing this problem is also a goal of DePaul's Panhellenic Association, which oversees sororities. The association's Kate Graham believes women should not be the only ones responsible for curbing relationship violence.
The burden so often falls on women to notice the signs and to get out of the relationship if they see signs of an abusive relationship, but that's not always the case. I think men need to be educated as well.
On its website, DePaul makes it clear that it doesn't tolerate domestic violence or relationship violence. Yet, these are not easy issues to solve. But many feel that if women like Melissa Reedy Russell have the courage to come forward, they may help prevent similar cases in the future. For Good Day DePaul, I'm Paul Steeno. The Theater School at DePaul University. This is where Kiki Layne, one of the stars of the award-winning movie If Beale Street Could Talk, received her education, graduating in 2014.
I'm very thankful for the training. I know that I am a much better actress because of it, just from the teachers that we get to work with.
In the movie, Layne plays Tish Rivers, the 19-year-old pregnant lover of a man falsely accused of rape and then imprisoned. The two deal with enormous adversity. The movie is director Barry Jenkins' adaptation of a 1974 novel written by James Baldwin. Layne originally read the Tish part to assist a friend auditioning for the male lead. But she fell in love with Tish's character, decided to audition herself, and beat out 300 other actresses for the role. If Beale Street Could Talk has already received critical acclaim, and it's been especially meaningful to Layne's former DePaul professor, Phyllis Griffin.
I wanted to phone all the women of my generation to say, you must see this movie, because this movie is a breakthrough for us as a race. For us, in terms of our humanity, is now on the screen.
A breakthrough by an actress making her big screen debut. Layne's performance also impressed Chicago Tribune film critic Michael Phillips.
Hers is really a very impressive film debut by anybody's standards, but particularly you have to watch it as a Chicagoan. You have to watch it with the knowledge that she is following in the footsteps that were so well filled by Ashton Saunders, another DePaul University theater major who did so well at playing one of the three versions of the central character in Moonlight. So, as Barry Jenkins asked me when I interviewed him a few months ago, what's going on at DePaul? I mean, they keep spitting out these fantastic young actors. So, he's doing very well by DePaul and vice versa.
From the theater school at the corner of Racine and Fullerton to the set of If Beale Street Could Talk, Layne's talent continues to emerge. Next up for Kiki Layne are roles in Native Son and Captive State, two films set to premiere early on this year. For Good Day DePaul, I'm Paul Steeno. All fans are welcome. Those were the words of Chicago Cubs executive Theo Epstein. This after Joe Ricketts, the father of Cubs chairman Tom Ricketts, sent and received messages that attacked Muslims. Joe Ricketts later apologized for his comments. Some Muslim leaders in Chicago are concerned.
What kind of playing out of these sentiments would occur within the Cubs establishment against fans, against potential players who are Muslim, who want to play in the team? Would they play out in discriminatory fashion?
Tom Ricketts disassociated his team from his father's comments and emphasized that his father has no role in running the team. Paul Sullivan covers the Cubs for the Chicago Tribune.
They have met with some Muslim community leaders and trying to come to some common ground. And they, I wasn't there obviously, but they did sound, at least Tom Ricketts sounded like he was very concerned.
While the Chicago Cubs continue to do many positive things, both on and off Wrigley Field, the Joe Ricketts email leak is the latest in a growing list of PR hits that the organization has sustained over the last couple of seasons. These include the suspension of shortstop Addison Russell for domestic abuse, and the acquisitions of second baseman Daniel Murphy, who had previously made anti-gay comments, and pitcher Aroldis Chapman, who had been suspended for domestic violence before coming to the Cubs. In addition, the Cubs chose the controversial right-wing media network Sinclair Broadcasting to run their Cubs television network. On the political front, Tom Ricketts has clashed with the 44th Ward Alderman Tom Tunney, who represents the Wrigleyville neighborhood. Tunney and the Ricketts family have differed over everything from outfield signage at Wrigley Field, more night games and concerts, and the number of street closures on game days. Tunney says he needs to balance the Cubs' priorities with those of the neighborhood.
They will never stop until they get everything they want and more.
DePaul professor Dan Azzaro previously worked in sports radio and feels the controversy may impact the Cubs.
I wouldn't have said yes in the beginning when this started, but I'm starting to think it might, turning off more people.
Despite all this, Cubs attendance remains high. The Cubs hope that trend continues for another year, and that the controversies finally end. For Good Day DePaul, I'm Paul Steeno. Diligent attention to detail. It's what DePaul Opera Theater students hope will make their rendition of Hansel and Gretel stand out.
Because it has to be excellent.
Yeah.
It has to, I mean, because that's what I would want. So you make it as great as it can be and you live with it. And yes, you tweak things and you change things, but that keeps it alive and that keeps it fresh.
We practice our breathing techniques and keeping our resonance up, and there's all these technical moments and things that we have to sort of pay attention to that make it all come together.
Working closely with director Harry Silverstein and conductor Hal Franz,
which is Lord. It's like every time you get to a little word, it just gets...
The cast masters every pronunciation, enunciation, and emphasis of each word. Every movement, facial expression, and bit of dialogue must be flawless to create a final product that makes everyone proud. Avoiding losing her breath while she simultaneously runs around the stage and sings is a detail that Erica Sassman has worked hard to master.
It's very much a physical, active thing, being a singer. You have to keep up the endurance, you have to practice a lot, you have to keep yourself active and exercise regularly. Certainly if I haven't been active, it would probably be 20 times as hard.
The cast has put in countless hours to prepare for this production.
I feel like we need so much more time, but then at the same time I feel like we're ready.
On some days, it's a meticulous grind, but the people here wouldn't have it any other way.
It is a gift for me that they allow me to come to rehearsal. I would be like a dog looking in the window.
Soon, DePaul Opera Theater students will get to perform Hansel and Gretel for real this time. Opening night is Friday, March 15th at 7:30 right here at Merle Reskin Theater in Chicago's Loop. There'll be another performance on Sunday, March 17th at 2 p.m. also at Merle Reskin Theater. For Good Day DePaul, I'm Paul Steeno.